Where are you right now? Are you okay? With my heart pounding in my chest, I tried to check on my husband. But to my surprise, my husband was perfectly fine. In fact, he lets out a heavy sigh over the phone and dismissively replies, "What's all this about? I'm at work as usual. Stop calling me when I'm busy." At this point, it was confirmed. I was sure that he was lying to me. It's time for me to put my long-held plan into action. My name is Mary, and I'm 30 years old. I work as a nurse at a senior care facility, where I face the daily reality of aging. Looking back, people used to tell me in my student days that I was naturally caring. So when I grew up, it only made sense for me to choose a profession where I could put that nature to good use. The residents at the facility range from those who are relatively active to those suffering from dementia. Every time one of them thanks me, I feel a sense of fulfillment, and I have a loving husband. His name is Mark, and like me, he's also 30. It's almost been 3 years since we got married, and we've been able to live a happy married life. Although we don't have children yet, there's no particular dissatisfaction. I still wanted to enjoy my time with my husband. However, my husband has been working overtime and working on holidays. He works at a bank and is busy every day. Even so, I had never heard of working on holidays at the bank, so I was a little suspicious. Lately, he's been coming home from work looking irritated and sighing. He often doesn't eat the prepared dinner, and our time together has greatly decreased. These days continued for a while, and I, worried, decided to probe my husband. I subtly called out to him as he relaxed with a beer after returning home. "Hey Mark, you've been coming home late lately. Is work that busy?" Yeah, it's busy." My husband replied, looking tired. "You know, the new semester's coming up, right? Maybe that's why we have a lot of customers for transfers and account openings. That kind of work takes quite a bit of time." "Is that so? The banks have strict business hours, right? Even so, do they have overtime and work on holidays?" Upon my inquiry, my husband's eyebrow twitched. I didn't miss that moment. That reaction. Maybe there really is no overtime or working on holidays. But Mark wouldn't lie about something like that. Seeing me deep in thought, my husband quickly said, "That's not it." He started to explain with a broad smile, as if making an excuse. "Actually, there's a lot of work that doesn't finish within business hours. New employees are coming soon, right? I'm also working on making manuals for them. It's just really busy." "Manuals? Are you the one making them, Mark?" Yeah. All the other employees said they are bad at it, so I had no choice but to do it." "Oh, I see. Well, that's the gist of it. Even if I come home late, don't worry. I might be at home less, but I'll make sure to earn properly in return." Saying this, my husband resumed his beer and started playing games. What my husband is saying is logical, but there's one thing that feels out of place. It's that he said he's creating manuals. It may not be a nice thing to say, but my husband is inherently technophobic. He can do the bare minimum of operations required for work, but he has virtually no tolerance for computer work. On the other hand, I'm good with machines, so I often teach my husband how to operate them. I can't imagine him, of all people, creating manuals for new employees. After all, manuals should be adding changes to the original copy. Would they really leave that to Mark, a single employee? My sense of discomfort grew, and my suspicion towards my husband increased. A few days later, something happened. My husband, who had been coming home late from overtime, unusually returned home at 6 p.m. But after eating dinner, he said he felt sick and went out for a walk. I suggested he rest early, but "I want to breathe some fresh air," he said, and left somewhat forcibly. It was the first time my husband had said something like this, so I was puzzled. Feeling sick and going for a walk? What would he do if he collapsed while out? Unable to shake my unease, I decided to secretly follow my husband so he wouldn't notice. However, contrary to my worries, he moved on with a light step. My husband stopped at a small park a little distance from our home. After looking around as if to be cautious, he started to call someone on his smartphone. A few minutes later, a white car parked right next to my husband. He immediately got into the passenger seat of the car. There was an unfamiliar woman in the driver's seat. What's with that car? What's the relationship with Mark? Just as I was about to approach the car with suspicion, the woman and Mark were in a tight embrace inside the car. What? What are you doing? My voice involuntarily quivers at the sight. Unaware of my confusion, the two exchange a passionate kiss. My husband and this unknown woman desiring each other. By the time I realized I was taking out my phone and turning on the camera. After capturing my husband's affair in photos and videos, I was snapped back to reality by the sound of the engine. By the time I regained my composure, the car had already driven off. Confusion, disgust, shock, sorrow. Various emotions were swirling inside me. When I finally managed to return home, a text from Mark arrived saying, "I met up with a friend, so I'll be home late." A friend? That can't be right. The scene of the affair replays in my mind over and over. I just couldn't believe his words. In the end, Mark came home after 2 in the morning. As my dissatisfaction was about to explode, I held back my tears and thrust the screen of my phone at him. "Hey, what is this?" "Huh?" I can see Mark's eyes darting around, clearly shaken. Seeing such an obvious reaction, I felt an indescribable feeling. Explain yourself! As I confronted the stuttering Mark, he showed a forceful smile. No, it's not like that, Mary. She's just a friend. A friend? Do you hug your friends like that? It's not like that. It's like a friendship between men and women, like comrades. It doesn't mean anything deeper. Then what about this photo? You're clearly kissing, right? That angle is bad. It only looked like we were kissing from your angle. I didn't do anything like that, and I wouldn't. I have an important wife named Mary. I wouldn't do something like cheat. After that, Mark continued to make excuses, desperately trying to cover up. It's really not what you think. Please believe me. I didn't do anything like that. He pleaded with a pained expression as if he was the victim. He wouldn't let me get a word in, but his shallow words wouldn't change how I feel. I decided to watch him a bit more. With that decision, I started monitoring his activities at home the next day. Then, things I didn't think much of before started catching my eye. I used to think he was just playing games, but he spent a lot of time looking at his phone. He checks his phone while watching TV, takes it with him to the bathroom when he bathes, and even when he sleeps, he holds onto his phone until he falls asleep. He's probably in touch with that woman from the car. He probably thinks it would be bad if I saw it, so he takes it with him wherever he goes. Ever since that day I confronted him about his affair, he's been coming home right on time, as if all his previous overtime was a lie. Mary, I'm home. I bought a cake on my way back today. Let's eat it together. A cake? Why all of a sudden? No particular reason. You like sweet things, right, Mary? I thought you might be tired. Thank you. Mark smiles and hands me the box of a cake. He's clearly trying to cheer me up. Even though he used to say he was working overtime, he started coming home on time as soon as I confronted him about his affair. Does he not think that's strange? Does he think that if he can get on my good side, it will be as if that date never happened? I am disappointed and appalled by his shallow plan and find myself unable to say anything. My feelings for Mark have been fading day by day, and before I knew it, I was only speaking the bare minimum to him. This gives Mark some room to breathe. Perhaps relieved that I'm not saying anything, he starts working overtime again. When Mark comes home late at night, I ask, "What were you doing?" With a frustrated expression, he responded, "Why do I have to explain everything? Don't you trust me at all?" Huh? Are you seriously saying that? After what you did before? You have the audacity to use the word trust? That's why. She's just a friend. By doubting me so much, aren't you, Mary, the one doing something shady? Huh? How did you come to that conclusion? Just because it's inconvenient for you, don't make me the bad guy. That's what I want to say, even though I keep saying it's not like that. Do you enjoy suspecting your husband's infidelity? Enjoy? No way. If I could, I wouldn't want to suspect the husband I love. However, it's harder to not suspect him in this situation. The one who's behaved suspiciously first was none other than Mark himself. Since that day, my husband and I have been in a cold war. At the same time, his behavior escalated and began to smirk as he openly played with his smartphone at home. Perhaps he thinks he was not found out. He even started making phone calls on the balcony late at night. By this point, my husband's infidelity is 100% certain. However, photos from my smartphone alone are insufficient evidence. I decided to secretly request a detective agency to investigate his infidelity. 2 weeks later, on my way to pick up the report I had requested, I saw multiple patrol cars rushing by with sirens blaring. I was curious, as I don't usually see so many patrol cars, when a news notification came in on my smartphone app. "A robbery at ABC Bank. The culprits are in a standoff." The headline jumped into my sight and my heart pounded. ABC Bank? Isn't that the bank where Mark works? Even though my feelings had already cooled down, I felt a strong sense of unease. What if something happened to Mark? Thinking about the worst case scenario, a cold sweat ran down my back. I immediately took out my smartphone and frantically called my husband. Please be safe. I wondered why I still felt this way about him who had betrayed me. However, I don't have time to think about that right now. After several rings, a curt voice responded, "What?" In response, I blurted out a question to him. "Where are you now? Are you okay?" In a panic, I checked on the safety of my husband, who was likely at the scene. He sighed deeply and with an annoyed tone said, "What's up all of a sudden? I'm at work now, isn't it obvious?" "You're at work. So you're at ABC Bank, right? Are you okay?"
Huh? What?
What's what?
Don't call me during work hours if you don't need anything. I'm busy.
Without waiting for my response, he hung up the phone. At that moment, the slight love I had left for my husband froze over. I hope he's safe. Just a few minutes ago, I was genuinely thinking that. However, now I only feel disgust towards him. Why can he be so calm when there's a robbery and standoff happening at his workplace? To begin with, he shouldn't be able to touch his phone during an incident. It was then that I finally realized he must still be somewhere with his mistress. Fueled by anger, I called a moving company and headed straight to the detective agency. After receiving plenty of incriminating photos, I headed directly to the city hall. As soon as I returned home, I packed all my essentials into a box and organized my belongings. While signing the divorce papers I got from the city hall, suddenly the intercom rang. At the door, immediate response movers were waiting. I entrusted them with the boxes filled with my stuff, which they delivered to my new home. I looked around the empty room. I asked myself, is this really the right choice? Yes, it's okay. My choice is absolutely not a mistake. I left the divorce papers and the removed wedding ring on the table, and without hesitation, I left the house I lived in with my husband. The place I headed after leaving the house was an apartment near my workplace. I had rented the room in advance just in case anything happened after I noticed my husband's infidelity. When I arrived, the mover's truck was already parked there, so I proceeded to move in my belongings. As I was unpacking and thinking about the future, the vibration of my smartphone alerted me to an incoming call. The screen displayed Mark. I took a deep breath, composed my turbulent emotions, and answered his call. Hello?
Hey, Mary, where are you right now? When I got home, your stuff was gone.
I only took my belongings from home. Any problem?
You took your stuff? What the hell are you talking about?
Mark's urgency was palpable, transmitted over the phone. I conveyed the facts to him in a calm manner. I will not return to that house anymore. You saw what was on the table, didn't you?
The table? Huh. What is this, divorce papers? This is not a joke. Don't mess around.
Mess around? I'm being very serious, though.
That's crazy. Why do I have to see divorce papers as soon as I get home?
I was filled with simmering anger at his selfishness, being negative about the divorce while he was doing the worst thing. There's no more sympathy left for such a man. Having made up my mind, I let my accumulated anger explode. Stop messing around. Stop joking. What you were doing was not work. It was an affair. I already know everything. It's strange that you can call me while a robbery is going on at your workplace.
A robbery?
Yes, a robbery broke into your workplace today. Despite causing a major fuss, you had no knowledge of it, which means you weren't at the bank.
No way, a standoff? That's...
Where were you during that time? With whom? If you can answer, try answering, you piece of shit. As I shouted over the phone, my husband seemed to realize he could not hide it anymore and confessed to his infidelity in resignation.
I'm sorry. I met a woman on a dating app in a moment of my weakness.
Oh, a dating app, huh?
I wanted some excitement in life. Every day ends at the scheduled time. There is no fun. I wanted to change such a life.
So you cheated sneakily.
I won't do it anymore. I beg you, please forgive me. You're all I have.
He pleaded desperately, but of course I did not respond. Shut up. Go seek your thrill on your own. Don't you dare contact me ever again. I hung up the phone with force and threw my smartphone onto the sofa. Afterwards, since my husband was reluctant to sign the divorce papers, I had to resort to hiring a lawyer and claim damages from him and his mistress. Feeling threatened by the lawyer's involvement, he quickly agreed to the divorce and promised to pay the full amount of damages. The woman, angry at being sued for damages, promptly left my husband. I feel annoyed to express gratitude to a woman who laid hands on my own husband, but I was able to take revenge on my husband because of her. So I thank her for cheating with my husband. I was able to throw away the unnecessary things and finally step into a valuable life. For a while, days of striving at work will continue. I will live each day cherishing it, proud of my own life.